From facing allegations of domestic violence, to supporting Donald Trump's campaign, to testing positive for steroids, UFC fighters have ruined their careers in some of the craziest ways. And first is TJ Dillashaw. After his match against former flyweight champion Henry Cejudo in January 2019, Dillashaw became hot in the world of UFC. The Sandman, who was the UFC's bantamweight champion at the time, was going for Cejudo's belt. He was vying for the American's belt in order to join the organization's exclusive Champ Club. But just when he thought he had a good shot at being the next star to join the Champ Club, it ended up being Cejudo who would enjoy all the fame instead of him. This happened after Dillashaw was handed a career-haltering 2-year ban. What for? For testing positive for recombinant human erythropoietin. Guess his ambition for the membership got a little too out of hand. As part of the punishment for the offense, Dillashaw would ultimately lose the title. Because of that, at UFC 238, Cejudo would claim it after defeating Marlon Moraes with a barrage of brutal hammer fists in the 3rd round.
He can't even defend himself. This fight is about to get stopped. Big elbows from Cejudo. Oh man, I thought...
Though it seems that using performance-enhancing drugs isn't that uncommon in the UFC after all. Another example of a career ruined by using performance-enhancing drugs is Vitor Belfort. The Brazilian martial artist formerly had a position as one of the most dreaded UFC competitors, known for his devastating knockout ability. But now his career, too, has been tainted by poor performance and controversy behind it in recent years. Belfort's performance in the octagon has substantially decreased, with a record of 26 wins, 14 defeats, and 1 no contest. Not only that, the fighter then tested positive for a prohibited substance like steroids numerous times, which eventually led to his career taking a hit when he was banned. Now, failing drug tests and being taken out of the UFC is one thing, but this next guy tried to play the system.
Now a knee to the body for Charles and a right hand.
I'm talking about Wanderlei Silva. Silva obviously didn't want to get caught for substance abuse, so he just always tried to run from drug tests.
Wanderlei trying to counter his legs. Looking early for a finish. Shot going for the head kick.
Even though Wanderlei had an amazing reputation, things changed for the worse in 2014. He was linked to a drug test scandal before a fight with his sworn nemesis, Chael Sonnen, at UFC 175. The fight had previously been postponed a number of times due to Silva's injuries. But after that, all appeared set for UFC 175. At least everything seemed to be set until it turned out that the Brazilian had neglected to file for a license to fight. Not only this, but the fighter had also deliberately avoided a random out-of-competition drug test. According to the story, Silva refused to answer the door when the drug testing officials knocked on it. He then reportedly acted very evasively when approached later at his nearby gym before finally running out of the side door. The UFC president, Dana White, would later call it the worst thing you could do when approached in this situation. Well, if the president's mad, then there's not much you can really do at that point. Silva received a lifetime ban from competition from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Even though that decision has now been overturned, he's currently awaiting another hearing to determine an appropriate punishment. Now, as funny as running out the side door of your gym when testers come is, what's even funnier is publicly shaming someone for it and then getting caught with drugs in your own system. And that's exactly what happened to Chael Sonnen. It was revealed that Sonnen had failed 2 random drug tests in the run-up to his UFC 175 fight with Wanderlei Silva. The final years of Sonnen's career came to a screeching halt soon after that, in the summer of 2014. This came as a surprise, as Sonnen had just been making fun of his opponent's refusal to take a drug test just a few weeks before the situation. The fighter's test results showed that he was essentially a walking pharmacy, and he tested positive for HGH, EPO, HCG, and anastrozole. This resulted in him getting a 2-year suspension from fighting. Now, even though different organizations, such as WWE, have more or less the same rules regarding the usage of enhancing drugs, it seems that the UFC has a bit of a stricter testing process. Brock Lesnar made a transition to the UFC that led to his eventual apprehension of drug usage. This really didn't come as a surprise to many. After all, the fighter has had a tremendous collegiate wrestling record and is built like a tank. Lesnar was one of the first WWE superstars to make the switch to MMA, citing a new chapter in his career. Yet, the Beast incarnate still had had instant success in the UFC after the switch. He defeated opponents like Frank Mir and even managed to rob Randy Couture of the heavyweight belt status. After all of these achievements, though, came a surprise for the former WWE star. He was put through stringent testing procedures by USADA over the years due to suspicions raised by his size and heft. After a 2016 victory against Kiwi Mark Hunt, Lesnar tested positive for clomiphene, as well as its metabolite, 4-hydroxyclomiphene. His victory over people's favorite Hunt was then reversed to a no contest by USADA, who then also hit the fighter with a hard 1-year suspension. Since then, the former wrestler hasn't competed for the company. Speaking about people's favorites, let me talk about another UFC star, loved by the crowd, whose fighting career has taken a hit due to his controversial history. Conor McGregor was once among the UFC's most intriguing and successful competitors, but recent years have seen a variety of problems ruin his image. He's been a part of numerous situations outside of the octagon, including the attack on a bus carrying UFC competitors in 2018. This then resulted in his arrest and multiple charges that led to him being put under the observation of fans and analysts alike. He also has a history of making disrespectful remarks, such as a racial statement he made in 2017 at a press conference. This led to him receiving much backlash and hate from fans and viewers alike who didn't agree with the words of the star. He's been a part of many other scandals as well, such as assaulting a woman on his yacht, harassment charges, and assault on a man in a Dublin bar. All of this led to the Irish fighter being labeled as the king of controversies, which led to his career taking a bit of a downfall as he lost support. It seems that McGregor isn't the only fighter whose career had taken a hit from controversies. BJ Penn suffered the same fate. Penn was one of the most gifted fighters in the UFC during his glory days, and he even won 2 division titles. But he lost his last 7 fights, and on top of that, his career's been riddled with scandals in recent years. On top of that, he's also been accused of domestic violence and assault. Yikes! He was later on fired from the UFC in 2019 after a streak of defeats. But unlike Penn, this next fighter didn't do anything wrong. Yet, thanks to his lousy luck, he hasn't been able to compete in the UFC again. I'm talking about Matt Hughes. Hughes was a legendary combatant in the welterweight division of the UFC, but his career was tragically cut short in 2017 following a terrible accident. He sustained a significant brain injury while operating his truck, which was struck by a train. Even though he's subsequently recovered remarkably, it seems that he'll never be able to engage in combat again. It's pretty sad, but one can't help but think how far he could have reached if he wasn't operating his truck that day. That's all for me about UFC fighters who've ruined their careers.